Today on the Star Trek Critic, we are going to watch Shakespeare. Data is posing as a king who is posing as a commoner. Well, this holographic character is posing as Patrick Stewart, posing as a holographic character. And this holographic character will soon be married to this Star Trek character. To make things weirder, the first baseman has now shown up. As much as I'd like to analyze Star Trekian Shakespeare, that is not the purpose of these videos. The purpose of these videos is to pick out the mistakes of Star Trek, or make snarky comments about Data talking about naked men. So is this how people clapped in Shakespearean days, or is it a Patrick Stewart thing? The first point is lost because Data said freeze program, but the fire and the characters are still moving. Data wants to learn Shakespeare, but Picard says, no, you're here to learn the human condition. And this is foreshadowing of what the Defector has to go through next. The neutral zone is huge. In reality, there are probably hundreds of unidentified craft in there. A crewman walks by and says, what's Data got in his head? Data immediately removes his wig out of embarrassment. Data wants to schedule a performance, but Picard shoots him down. 1 point lost. There is no cut in the carpet, which means that is truly a fake turbolift. Worf says, I number 1. And this episode is the Defector. The next point is lost because Data has magically changed into his uniform. Jarok is clearly not doing anything with his hands on the keyboard, so -1 point. Look closely. The scout ship is going to park inside the Enterprise's shield. And of course, there's always that question of how big the neutral zone really is. The Romulans think they are too good for the Federation and just drive off. The transporter operator says, I number 2. The scout ship is damaged. They should have sent a closer security guard to the transporter room and beamed him out right away instead of waiting, so -1 point. Shout out to this beautiful model of the Romulan scout ship. Look where it is in position with the Enterprise. So his age and his knowledge give it away that he's not a low-ranking logistics officer. 1 point lost for bringing this Romulan defector into this conference room because you have to go through the bridge to get there. Another point lost for opening credits 10 minutes into a 45-minute show. Riker says he is a great storyteller. Data thinks he is a potted plant. Data says dealing with Romulans is like playing chess. The next point is lost for Picard not ducking so close to an explosion. And another point lost. The scout ship is inside the shield. That would cause considerable damage to the Enterprise itself. Oddly, that's what Leobin did in Battlestar Galactica. Riker accuses him of being the left fielder.
The left fielder's name. Why?
This would have been a better place to hold a meeting with a possible defector. Just clear out sickbay. This scene gives Crusher one more chance to jab Worf about his decision 2 episodes ago. How do they allow Klingon cuss words on a show meant for families? The shadow is Riker's arm holding Worf back. However, the light is coming from the film crew, so -1 point. Now Riker gets to curse in Romulan. Worf says, I number 3. Jarok orders 12 Onkians. Look at how he eyeballs a computer for not knowing what an Onkian is. And it turned out he brought a spare Tums in case something doesn't agree with him. 1 point lost. A neutral zone border would not move that fast. Both of them are thinking, the graphics have really improved since the first season, haven't they? Listen closely. This is one of the few times Picard asks how long it took for a message to get to him, to simulate how far out in space they really are. This is a great effect, but most people probably didn't even notice it. And for ratings, they're showing this poor extra's butt. Look close. Did the set crew turn the chair so Picard could sit down easily? The Admiral says the Romulans are up to something. And this is the first clue that the Klingons are going to get involved. Worf says, I number 4. They discover the Romulan warbird kept slowing down. And they're like, hey, didn't we see this on Battlestar Galactica? Picard tells Beverly, let's fool around after this scene. And Beverly says, well, that's a possibility. So far, about 8 hours have passed. They should really be suspicious of what he says because they would have seen some type of activity in the past year, no matter how hard the Romulans tried to hide it. Picard releases stress by watching his favorite soap opera with a nice cup of tea. Data is going to start his calibrations. That's disgusting. Picard wants Data to be the black box of the ship. Data's like, you know the ship has a recorder, right? Picard says, how's the crew's spirit? And Data says, you're supposed to ask Deanna that because it's her job to tell you. Then Picard is like, yeah, but she doesn't know anything about Shakespeare. Now comes the interrogation. Jarok's superior officer was the first baseman. Now he says it's the third baseman. No wonder they don't trust him. Deanna says, I only have 2 lines in this show, so -1 point, and -1 more point because Wes is not here at all. Xerox says that's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with this interrogation. Riker says, I guess you're right, but the narrator likes to make snarky comments all the way through. Xerox says, this is foolish, and Riker says, yeah, I don't like the game he plays either. This is the second clue that Klingons are involved. Worf actually has a big part in this mission, but it's all behind the scenes undercover. But I will have to take a point because the doors open way too soon. Geordi calls Data the third baseman. Then they spend the entire scene talking about their gut instinct. Then they find something, and as usual, they blame the third baseman. Data decides to stare at the Romulan and make him feel awkward. This is why Romulans don't like androids, because they stare at them. Xerox wants some Romulan ale. Data dances around the subject, but someone on the ship has a stash somewhere, I'm sure. But if real Romulan ale is illegal in Starfleet, would a synthahol version also be illegal? Xerox talks about the first place where he got laid. Data may be an android, but he does like to help people. Shout out to the director remembering that there's always a guard following Xerox around the ship. Xerox says, this is beautiful. Data says, I got the idea from Wesley, but don't you think anything weird. However, it does encourage Xerox to finally admit who he is. Admiral Hayden says Xerox can't be trusted. Picard says, Xerox, I'm sick of your shit. This is Picard maneuver number 1. Xerox doesn't want to give away all those Romulan secrets. He is more of a whistleblower than a traitor. However, Picard wants the full Monty or he won't play this game. And where is Livingston the fish? It must be his day off. Picard tells Xerox he crossed over. That would mean something way different if this was filmed today. Here comes the standoff. Picard is not going to jump into this danger unless Xerox jumps in with him. Xerox confesses his sins. He's doing it to save the children. Geordi performs the Picard maneuver, and they're all wondering who's flying the ship. Picard announces they are all going to get themselves killed based on what a defector says. According to the stardates, about 16 hours have passed. Captain Picard shows his optimism by naming a famous general. This is Picard maneuver number 3. It looks like Xerox gave them false information about Nirvana 3. Worf says, I number 5, it's time to celebrate. -1 point for a visible boom mic in the reflection, and Picard maneuver number 4. Xerox arrives with his security guard. Picard says, you're gonna pay for all the gas it took us to drive out here for no reason. The Romulans are going to great lengths to make an example out of Xerox. There must be something big politically going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. So big, the Romulans never even noticed their star will go nova in 20 years. Picard maneuver number 5, time for another drink. The Romulans appear and beat up the Enterprise for their lunch money. The bridge crew does the we're getting the shit shot out of us dance. 1 point lost here because the Enterprise would actually shift when it's hit. Picard and Tomalak shout insults again. They probably filmed the scenes all on the same day for both shows. Picard maneuver number 6, while he's being threatened. What a pompous ass. Xerox is thinking, that was a lot of false information. What if someone else took the bait instead? Tomalak tells Picard to surrender the Enterprise, but Picard says this,
I don't think so, Tim.
Worf says, I number 6. Picard tells Tomalak, you wanna play? Let's play. Tomalak backs down and the Romulans go home and think of another way to piss off the Federation. Worf says, I number 7. Admiral Xerox becomes a homeless, unemployed, illegal immigrant traitor all at the same time. Admiral Xerox took the Tums. Is this the first Next Generation suicide? You never learn what happened to the letter to his wife and daughter. However, Spock might have delivered it, or Picard himself, because they both ended up on good terms with the Romulans. Well, better terms, that is. So, who were the defectors? Simon Templeman has 120 screen credits, mostly cartoon voices. He can also be seen on Home Improvement, 24, and ER. John Hancock has 90 screen credits, mostly as cops or judges, and will be back next year. Unfortunately, a heart attack took him not long after. Andreas Kasoulas will be back 2 more times. And James Sloyan has 100 screen credits, including Xanadu, Moonlighting, and The Love Boat. He'll be back on Voyager and Deep Space Nine. The Defector, where there is only a vague reference between a Romulan defector and a British king posing as a commoner, gets a score of 84. Yeah! Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave comments below, click that like button, the share button, the subscribe button, and I'll see you again.